The extraordinary rendition of Janos Farkas. Chapter 2. There was silence in the car. The one man who would have talked, questioned, and yelled couldn't. There was a black hood over his head, and under it a thick piece of gray industrial tape covered his mouth. His body sagged and swayed, and it was not obvious whether he had been drugged or whether he was simply disoriented and resigned to his fate. The big Mercedes was waved through a security perimeter gate and came to a stop between a small commercial hangar and a looming Gulfstream 5 turbo corporate jet. The jet was unliveried and only wore the required registration number on its tail. Behind the Gulfstream, Schoenfield Airport was in full flight, with carriers from around the world queuing up for takeoff. 5 men got out of the Mercedes. 3 of them were dressed completely in black, although the masks they had worn earlier were now gone. Another man, the man who was being pushed and pulled, the prisoner with the tape over his mouth and the hood over his head, was in faded Levi's with a white shirt and black blazer. He was handcuffed in front, and his blazer had been pulled down behind and secured to his belt. The handcuffs and the pulled-down blazer formed an effective straitjacket. The 5th man was dressed in nondescript street clothes: brown pants, knit shirt, and a tan-leather bomber jacket. His most identifying feature was a large, walrus mustache. As he got out of the car, he tossed aside the core of the apple he was eating. Inside the hangar, a 6th man was waiting. He was slim and wearing a dark business suit, and even in the blackness, he was wearing sunglasses. 2 of the men in black held the handcuffed man on either side as the man in sunglasses came up and took the bag from the prisoner's face. Raising his left hand, the man in sunglasses slid them down just far enough to look over them. Their eyes met. Neither man showed fear nor hatred. They just stared at each other for a few seconds, as players in a game whose outcome is yet to be determined might stare. "All right, Mr. James?" the man with the walrus mustache asked. Sliding his glasses back up, the slim man nodded and retreated back into the shadows, watching as the others took the prisoner over to the wall, where they slid his jacket up his back, uncuffed him, then recuffed each hand high and out to the side. Next, one of the men took each of his legs in turn, much as a farrier would a horse's rear legs. One another ripped off the man's shoes and socks. They did not bother to untie the laces. When this was done, they tied his leg out to the side so that he was now in a full spread-eagle position. Then they took sharp knives and cut away his clothing. Next came a rubber hose, a bucket, and an enema kit. The man struggled, but the enema tip was shoved roughly up his ass. When he could take no more, the tube was pulled from him and a torrent streamed out of him. The man with the hose washed him down and then hosed the fetid mesh into a grate on the floor. This was repeated twice more until nothing came out but clear water. The 4th time, a smaller enema bulb was filled with a cloudy solution from a bottle. The man was no longer putting up a struggle. "Drugs," the mustached man said to the thin man. "Drugs to make him immobile and settle his guts down. Now we're going to put a diaper on him. It's a long flight, and we wouldn't want him to shit on one of the leather seats in the Gulfstream, would we? IC wouldn't like it, would they?" Peter James looked at his watch. There was a commercial flight leaving for Sarajevo at 7:25 that morning. He wanted to be on it. He had a taxi to catch. That's the end of Chapter 2. Tomorrow, Chapter 3.